Hi, I'm Courtney Radke with Fortinet, and I'm coming to you live from NACS 2022 in Las Vegas. We're here at the NACS show looking at the hundreds of vendors that are here with technology that's driving new and engaging customer experiences. From how the food gets into the customer's hands, to IoT sensors, to camera analytics and the security behind them, we're going to talk to vendors, we're going to talk to those operators in the space to see how they're leveraging technology to change their business. Technology is really kind of a driving force that we've seen. It's a pervasive topic. So I'd be interested in hearing about how you guys, how Inspire Brands is leveraging technology to move your brands forward.
I would say really the fact that, with COVID happening, we've developed a way to be able to do more touchless, frictionless ways to be able to, develop brands. So for instance, we have a new concept, Buffalo Wild Wings Go, and that's really an on-the-go concept with really, someone can speak a little more about it, but just a way to be able to get in front of everyone without having to sit in a restaurant. There's no seating. You come in, you order on the go, and then you're out. And they do very well in the college campuses around those areas. So I would say that's one. And you'll see a lot of us having drive-through only concepts. So Dunkin' has many. Jimmy John's, we've developed really a new concept recently, our new drive-through only concept, which has worked very well for us.
And we've seen that across the industry, frictionless experiences, drive-through experiences. How we talk about often how to bring the digital into the physical space. So, Summer, do you have anything to add on the new concept of the Buffalo Wild Wings Go?
Well, just that is a fantastic brand. There's plenty of room in the market for us to expand with this Buffalo Wild Wings Go concept. And the fact that we're able to condense our sports bar without having to forgo our flavor profile is a wonderful opportunity for us. And the fact that it is in its infancy, but there's plenty of time for people to get in on it. And like you said, with the technology, we've been able to bring all of the things that we've been really proofing that concept with our technology, our POS, our delivery systems, and those types of things to bring in with us.
We've heard this from a number of people here of the labor challenges and how the market conditions are driving technology adoption and investments inside of the C-store industry. What would you say, if you're just looking around over the last couple of days, have been some of the most pervasive technologies? We heard, labor augmentation. Well, what technologies are behind that? What's driving that? How is technology helping those industries cope with those challenges?
It's one of those things that in the simplest and short way, automate everything that you can. It is basically simply seeing how can you use any kind of sensor, any kind of IoT device to basically take off labor, take off activity, unnecessary paperwork from the C-stores operators. The less the operators have to do in terms of managing inventory, managing equipment, and the like, the more time they can spend in engaging with the customers and serving their customers.
What haven't we seen yet that you feel is going to be big over the next couple of years?
I think we're starting to see it actually unfold right now. And what I mean by that is basically the idea of the virtual store manager. We are in such a tight labor shortage right now that we've got to find a way to make operating a C-store much easier. And so what I mean by that is that for that store manager, general manager positions, we've got to simplify that. We've got to take all these incredible data opportunities that are coming from the C-store and start to rationalize them so that we can turn them into actionable insights so that somebody 1 year out of college, 2 years out of college, can take over that role and perform it in a competent manner.
What would you say from a technology standpoint is one of the biggest trends that you're seeing driving both restaurant but also in the C-store space?
Is that like a joke, driving it, right? Because we're talking about this,
Pun
right?
intended.
Pun intended. Okay, well, there's a few things. It's fascinating to me, first of all, that they're talking about delivery here.
Right.
Because you can go ahead and use things like ghost kitchens or dark kitchens, really not ghost kitchens, but a dark kitchen, which is where you're using the convenience store facility to make products. Some of them don't even require to have a hood with it if you're doing sous vide cooking. So it can become a central destination for that 20 minutes, because if you think about taking food and consuming it, or it can be a central destination for the delivery services to pick up with the production and going out. And so I think the linkage between those things is a rather interesting idea.
obviously here we're talking about everything that's CStore.
Yep.
What is the future of CStore? So if maybe you want to give us a little bit of insight of, you've sat on a bunch of podcasts today, you've
Yep.
heard from a bunch of industry experts.
Yeah.
What has been the biggest thing, the biggest trend that you've seen driving innovation in the CStore space?
You know what I heard often is this connected customer idea. I heard it from a bunch of different people. And, the idea as simple as I can gas up and get my pump ready to go,
Right.
sitting in the car, and I just have to get out and put the pump in basically in the car. I thought that was super interesting. And they're really forward thinking, right? They're really starting to think themselves out of a box. They're starting to think themselves out of a box of being a convenience store and into more, how do we figure out day parts? How do we figure out occasions? And the technology just kind of rolls with that. In other words, how do we make a seamless connected experience and bring that into our particular venue,
Yeah, I've always thought, it was kind of just that transactional experience. I get gas and then I go, but now they're experience hubs.
Yeah.
You have more dwell time, especially if we're talking about EV or something else.
Yeah.
So what do you think, Steve?
Yeah, that was one of the things I was going to say. It was just, if you have longer dwell time, that creates an opportunity to sell different kinds of products. It creates an opportunity to have some space for people to sit down, which is, not the typical in and out, just grab something off the shelf sort of experience. So like Michael said, I think a lot of it is around the digitization of, I don't know if that's a real word, digitization of the experience. I think the C-store industry has been behind a lot of other retail, frankly, on that. And then, as we're seeing in lots of retail, how do you speed things up? Just walk out type of technology, self-service.
Yeah, we saw that in the Flores, a couple of examples of the walk-out tech here.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that was interesting to see.
We see Connexus driving forward those standards inside of the community, and as you said, it's so important. There's so many options that are out there, and particularly from our standpoint, we see that as extremely important with technology and how it relates to security in our space. So can you talk a little bit about, from your side, why it's so important to have standards and direction inside of the industry, in an industry that previously didn't really have any?
Yeah, well, I will say from a security standpoint, we don't necessarily set standards around security. There are bodies that obviously do that. However, when we build our standards, we have security experts on our membership that volunteer to build security into standards, and that way you can implement initially with security in mind.
Right.
From a Connexus standpoint, we do have a data security committee, and what they particularly do is discuss what's going on in data security in our industry, and as well as what's happening in other industries that we can borrow from, and then educate about standards, data security standards more generally.
Absolutely.
And that's important both from a vendor standpoint, so in that maybe there's things that you just don't know, maybe about PCI 4.0 that you really need experts around you to understand, and it allows retailers in our space to hear from vendors that these are the things that you need to be concerned about in your stores.
Absolutely. These digital technologies driving more frictionless experiences, they've come a long way over the last couple of years, not just in the ordering experience, but also, can you talk about maybe some of the operational improvements that get from a staff perspective, maybe store operations perspective?
Well, it's so important. Guest satisfaction surveys never tell you that it's really that interaction with the cashier. It's really about order accuracy, the cleanliness of the restaurant, these sort of things your team members can be repurposed to focus on versus taking those orders. And so we think that it allows the guest to place their order, assure it's accurate, and then your team members can be doing things like greeting the guests, preparing the food, making sure that everything is at the quality that you would expect it to be.
Yes, absolutely. I can't understate it. Security is absolutely critical to everything we do in the C-store industry. It could ruin an otherwise good customer experience. So maybe what are some of the other changes that you're seeing in technology in the C-store space, aside from the traditional what we just talked about in the security space? How is maybe the transaction side changing a little bit to enhance the customer experience?
The transaction side is changing in a way that now there's more point-to-point encryption, whether that's validated or non-validated. It's a very big part of the C-store space. We've just signed a huge C-store operator here in the US and Canada to do that point-to-point encryption, and that's something we're seeing more and more happen over the next probably couple of years.
So you're already putting a lot of thought and effort into what technology is going into your stores today and how franchisees consume those. What would you say is next? What's the next big thing for you guys in technology?
Yeah, well, EV is a big conversation today, and looking at how we currently are really focused on innovating our fuel concept and our services. We're really putting that effort and technology into our EV as well.
Yeah.
So we're trying to get a lot more feedback from our customers, looking at, again, demographic and where it's going to actually be beneficial for the ROI for it, and being able to really be more functional around bringing those folks in for EV, but also how do we get them out of their vehicles and bring them into our stores, right?
Do
So
some shopping, right?
it's very important in regards to having that pairing, right? So, we have a lot of good minds working on that, and I'm sure that we'll be seeing that very soon. Our European model already has that taken care of, but we're going to use those best practices for the US and see how that works for our culture and how that's really going to maintain a process around how we're going to scale that out through the country.
Absolutely. How do you strike that happy medium of dwell time, they're sitting in their car, versus I want to gain some loyalty from them by coming into our stores as well. How can you talk about a little bit about where are the biggest areas that you're seeing technology driving those greater touch points, those greater customer experiences?
Yeah, so there's really kind of three areas, and the biggest transfer from a visual digital perspective has been a transfer from the path of purchase to the point of purchase. Sure. And the idea of driving past a billboard and then coming into the parking lot, that's still valid, right? But it's more broader marketing. What is now happening is more at the countertop, in a shelf edge, or in the cooler screens environment, right? Where you're opening the door and the product is behind it. Those are transferring the way that someone is engaging to that moment that they're making a decision. But the other thing that's really playing a role now is how loyalty is transferring into the store transaction in a live moment. So if I'm a loyalty customer and I'm making a transaction, I'm not just earning points. I might be actually earning a transaction right then that I want to capitalize on.
Yeah.
All of that is technology infrastructure that potentially wasn't even available 5 years ago, let alone deployed.
What do you see as maybe next? ESLs are here. What do you see maybe as the next innovation in this space for C-stores?
Well, the other thing that this technology will enable, or at least Chrysler technology will enable, is going to be being able to flash these to drive some of those in-store efficiencies, operational efficiencies, right? So put back for stocking, be able to flash the item so that the guesswork of where this item actually goes is no longer in the hands of the team member. It's taken care of by the technology.
Yeah. And that is a wrap from NACS 2022 in Las Vegas. We've had a lot of amazing conversations, seen a lot of amazing technology. And one thing we've seen is that technology is the way forward in the C-store space. Whether it's kiosks for labor management or store inventory or for operational efficiencies, or it's the IoT sensors or seemingly the connected everything. I know that I've seen a lot of technology here that's going to be driving the new and changing face of the C-store. So we'll talk about this a lot in the future of what is the future of C-store and the technology that's behind it. What we see is the infrastructure, the security behind it. From everybody, we've heard that needs to be a guiding principle. It needs to be thought of first as we start deploying these new brand and customer experience enhancing technologies. So again, I'm Courtney Radke coming to you live from NACS 2022, and that's a wrap.
Debut here in the spring for sure. So
Very cool.
by the spring.
Very cool. Oh, hey guys. Well, I'm just here doing the real wrap to the show with Lagunitas here. So at NACS 2022, we appreciate everybody for joining us today. Again, this is the real wrap. This is the show. Hope everybody got something out of this, all the technology and innovation that we've seen in the space today. And I think my cameraman, my guy here behind the scenes, needs a beer as well.
Let's get him one.
All right. Thank you. Cheers.